The humble beginnings of the mighty Indus start high up in the frozen wastelands of the Himalayas. As the water flows down the mountains, it gathers momentum. But as the Indus enters the plains, it spreads out and spawns life. Civilizations are born. One such civilization flourished on the banks of the Indus nearly 8 centuries ago and left its mark in more ways than one. Almost 800 years ago, the city of Uch was settled on the banks of the river Indus.
It has a long history. It is said to be one of the Alexandrias established by Alexander the Great. It was part of the territory conquered by Muhammad bin Qasim in the early 8th century. Then it went through various phases of development, of which the most important one was in the early 13th century, during the period of the Delhi Sultanate. It was during his period that the Mongol invasions took place. And it was during that time that these people from Central Asia and the Sufi Pirs came and settled, and with them they brought a lot of craftsmen and people, able people who knew how to construct fantastic buildings. So Uch became famous in those days. It became a large city. It had good fortifications. It had a very strategic location on the rivers. It was a trading city. It was a depot for a lot of grain that was transported down the country. It was also a place of feudal landholdings and a great center of culture. The Sufi Pirs who came from Central Asia, by this time Sufism had already developed into a major form of Islamic practice. Wherever the Sufi Pirs went, they took followings with them, and they created followings locally.
A lot of these followers were artists and craftsmen who made these buildings as tombs for the Sufi saints.
ये एक मकसद आर्किटेक्ट का एक बहुत खूबसूरत डिज़ाइनिंग थी उस वक्त की, जो ये लोग बनाते थे। और ये सारे तुर्क कारीगर थे, उन वहाँ से ये माइग्रेट करके आए थे कुछ लोग, जिन्होंने ये डोम्स और ये सारी चीज़ें बनाई थी।
These 120-foot tall buildings were made on the foundations of wood beams, with burnt brick laid in mud mortar. Workers worked day and night to complete these buildings. There are several tombs of famous Sufis in Uch, notably the tombs of Sayyid Jalaluddin Bukhari and his family. The first is said to have been built for Baha'u'l Alim by his pupil. The second was made for Baha'u'l Alim's granddaughter, Bibi Javindi. And the third for Baha'u'l Alim's architect. The city of Uch was a flourishing riverport city and was at the height of its glory. But then, the river changed its course.
The rivers of the Punjab have had a meandering history. The Indus moved from the edge of Uch to Mithankot first, and sometimes during that great flood of the early 18th century. And then recently, in about the last 100 years, it's moved again. So it is a continuous history.
The city that was thriving due to the river and trade now became deserted. The people left Uch along with the river. The sun had set on the fabulous city of Uch. Since there was no one left to take care of the monuments, the elements started to destroy them.
The rain actually penetrates the monument and washes away the mud, leaving them very, very susceptible to collapse. The foundations have been moving ever since that great flood in the 1810, when half of the monuments were washed away. The foundations have been moving, they've been settling continuously.
Gradually, the monuments started to crumble. Today, Uch is a bustling city of 25,000 residents. Although no longer a prosperous river port, Uch still has an importance which it owes to its ancient heritage. But heritage and humanity are on a collision course. Every year, Uch hosts a festival celebrating the end of harvest, almost doubling its population. A significant part of the festival includes visit to the monuments by tourists and worshippers. This surge of humanity puts more pressure on the monuments and their fragile infrastructure. The monuments have also had another kind of influence on the people and the communities. Inspired by the tomb of Bibi Javindi, a similar kind of monument was built in Multan by descendants of the same artists that made the original monuments in Uch. As well as inspiring other buildings and tombs, the monuments have inspired a local cottage industry.
ये जो कलर हैं ख़ास तौर पे ये ब्लू फिरोज़ी कलर ये बहुत आँखों को अच्छे लगते हैं। उन्हीं को देख के फिर आगे हमने इस काम को आगे बढ़ाया, तो उसी से ये सिलसिला चल रहा है हमारे बुज़ुर्गों से। तकरीबन आज ये 5वीं जगह पे मैं ये काम कर रहा हूँ, तो इससे हमारा रोज़गार और चल रहा है। तो जो भी कोई ऑर्डर देता है भाई ये चीज़ हमें चाहिए, इसमें गमले बनाते हैं, कोई भी चीज़ हो, कोई कहता है भाई इस शक्ल में इस शेप में बना दो, तो उसको बना देते हैं।
ये जो ब्लू टाइल्स देखते हैं आप मज़ारात पे, मसाजिद पे, ये यहाँ की सदियों पुरानी रवायत है, यहाँ पे सदियों से बन रहे हैं। उसके अंदर भी एक किस्म की एक हिस्ट्री है, एक रिसर्च लोग देखने से उसमें पता चलता है। अब मुख्तलिफ मज़ारात पे मुख्तलिफ हैं। कुछ मज़ारात पे आप देखें सिर्फ फ्लावरी डिज़ाइंस हैं, कुछ पे आप देखें ज्योमेट्रिकल डिज़ाइंस हैं और टाइल की शेप, और इसी तरह उच शरीफ में जैसे है वहाँ पे आप देखेंगे जो कलर स्कीम उस्तादों ने इस्तेमाल की, क्योंकि बिल्कुल ओपन जगह है, वो धूप है फुल, लेकिन आप जब वो ब्लू कलर देखते हैं तो एक किस्म का सुकून आपको महसूस होता है।
But the source of this influence is slowly disappearing. While rain is the major source of eroding the monuments, modern-day sewage is adding to the destruction of these structures. Due to non-existent drainage systems, sewage water sinks into the ground and mixes with the soil. Gradually, with the help of rain, this contaminated water reaches the base of the monuments and eats away at the very foundations.
It was quite abysmal. Populations living at the edge of the city that were basically using wastewater for access to their water needs. I've seen with my own eyes women washing clothes in effluent.
The monuments are part of a living graveyard where people are still buried today.
लोकल लोगों को और तो कुछ नहीं, उन्होंने एक कब्र बनाई अपने, किसी कोई उनका फौतगी हो गई तो उन्होंने कहा जी चलें ये ब्लू टाइल एक निकाल के उसमें से, तो फिर वही टाइलें उठा के आपने ख़ुद भी देखी होंगी यहाँ जाके कि कब्रों के ऊपर वही जो बीबी जवंदी के रोज़े की हैं या हज़रत बहावल हलीम के रोज़े की टाइलें हैं, वो सिंगल पीसेस जो हैं वो निकाल के चोरी भी हुई हैं यहाँ से। अखबारों में भी आपने पढ़ा होगा, बड़े बड़े मोअज़्ज़िज़ लोग यहाँ से ईंटें चुरवा के ले गए।
So what are the solutions? To address these problems, organizations are needed. One such organization is the CRC, the Conservation and Rehabilitation Center.
CRC believes in that monument conservation is part of holistic cultural development of the area where we work. Our main aim actually is to consolidate the buildings. As they stand today, they have a wonder value. People look at them and they're kind of stunned, you know. They hear these three buildings which have been there in place like this.
Taking account of its heritage and architectural importance, UN agencies have recognized Uch as a World Heritage Site and financed its preservation.
We are trying to revive the community, give life back to the community, try to find an entry points which brings all those people together. We come in with some modest amount of money to give to these organizations for institutional support so that they can continue working.
But even with ample funding, their efforts would be useless without the collaboration of the locals.
लोकल लोगों का जो वहाँ साथ रहते हैं, उनकी भी एक ड्यूटीज़ हैं, साथ अपने इस तारीख़ी विरसे को बचाने के सिलसिले में पूरा ताउन करें और उन लोगों में अवेयरनेस ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा पैदा करनी चाहिए।
हमारे वहाँ के जितने लोकल्स हैं, पैरा प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, उनको कुछ थोड़ा बहुत इसके बारे में बताना, क्योंकि बेसिकली मतलब ज़्यादा किस हद तक हम वहाँ पे स्टे करना है, मतलब संभालना ज़्यादातर उन्होंने है, तो उनको बताना है कि आपने किस हवाले से इस मॉन्यूमेंट्स के ऊपर काम करना है, आपने कैसे इस चीज़ को आप रोक सकते हैं, इसकी डिटोरिएशन को रोक सकते हैं, आप लोगों को मैक्सिमम इसमें इन्वॉल्व करके कैसे इनको सर्वाइव ज़्यादा से सर्वाइव कर सकते हैं।
CRC was able to collaborate with locals of the area and train them to map the monuments and the city. A few years ago, the Department of Archaeology was able to fill in the gaps between the bricks, which prevented further damage to the structures due to rain. Other efforts to address sewage and vandalism are also underway.
हैकमा टूरिज़म उसमें करे, लोगों में अवेयरनेस पैदा करे, उनको ब्रोशर दें, उनको छपवा के उनको डॉक्यूमेंट्स दें और बताएं उनको कि भी इस चीज़ की ये वैल्यू है, आप इसको तबाह ना करें।
The local people have helped. They've helped mostly by understanding what we are doing. There are always people who do not cooperate and understand, but a large segment of the population has helped. The local peers who have been traditional custodians of the monuments have cooperated very nicely.
ये है कि जी इसमें कोई शक नहीं कि ये हमारा एक कीमती वर्सा है, तो इसको महफूज रखने के लिए कि बहुत सी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और मकामी लोग जो हैं तो ये आपस में ताउन कर रहे हैं और ये इनकी ही सरपरस्ती में ये काम हो रहा है और इंशाअल्लाह हमें तवक्को है कि जिस तरह से ये काम कर रहे हैं, मेरे ख्याल में हमारे जो ये सकाफती विरसा है ये बिल्कुल महफूज हो जाएंगे।
The dream of enlightened people and the skills of amazing craftsmen gave us a heritage that we can all be proud of. The ravages of time have been addressed for the moment, and there seems to be hope for the future of these architectural wonders. But the work is not over yet.
To works like these, the kind of work we're doing, we hope we can instill in people the kind of sense of history which looks at history in a more detached way, and that the Western nations have been able to develop for themselves.
Uch, the modern, and the historical need to exist in harmony.
A lot depends upon what the future of Uch is. Recognizing that the heritage has always been a part of our lives. We have to rekindle those links. So education is a very, very important thing in the way a city holds its heritage and the way it links the heritage with the life of its people.
Our generation has been entrusted with the care of these treasures. We must not fail our children, our future.